I first met Sam Lea in 1971 when he was 90 years old. I was looking for the music of an old Hawaiian song. Somebody here in Honolulu told me Sam might know it, and he did. But what I found was a lot more than that song. I met a man who had never lived in a big city. His mind was still in harmony with the valley of his birth. He not only wrote songs in Hawaiian language, he thought in Hawaiian. For Sam, a song was a poem made of words and earth. It was not written to be sold. It was written to celebrate a moment. That was why he gave all his songs away in the old Hawaiian manner. He was never famous, and he had no desire to be. He was a man of an older time and an older place, a man whose music and whose life was filled with the spirit of Hawaii, a man of aloha.
Aloha, this is the taping for the making of the Kamae Songbook. Today is Friday, December the 27th. It's 9:30 a.m. and we are here with the Songbook's Hana group. Okay, ready? All right. So mahalo again to each of you for being with us today. This is a really important opportunity for us to understand how you did the work you did together, individually, to build the Eddie Kamae Songbook. So before we get started, what I'd like to do is to ask each of you to introduce yourself, what your role or roles and responsibilities were as part of this Hana group. So we'll start with you, Lilinoy, your full name, and then roles, responsibilities.
Mahalo, Minette. I'm Lilinoy Andrews. My role was as writer, translator, and researcher for the songbook. So that was my main role.
And how long have you been doing this particular work?
This project?
Yeah, this project.
We worked on it, I think, for about 2.5 years.
Okay, all right. And how were you introduced to this work? And, you know, if you could talk a little bit about how you began and why you thought this is something you wanted to contribute to?
I think I got roped into this by my boss, Maynette Benham, who said, I've got a great curriculum project for you, and it's the Eddie Kamae. You know, they want to make a songbook, and I've worked on the Lina Machado songbook, helped create that, and worked with other forms of Hawaiian music. So I thought, well, that's great. Once I found out how many of the songs were from a particular favorite composer of mine, I thought, I'm in. And so I was really excited to help work on this. Yeah.
Wonderful, thanks, Lilinoy. Myrna?
I'm Myrna Kamae. I'm Executive Director of the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation. My husband, Eddie Kamae, musician, composer, and filmmaker, is the person that we really wanted to take his music and have it have another dimension, to have it live, to have it have a life in the schools, which was his dream. And actually a dream that Minette, in the last days of Eddie's life, you promised him that his work would be in the schools. And this Eddie Kamae Songbook is a really good example of how that is going to happen and how that is happening now. Well, you called me, Minette called me, and she said, Myrna, what have you been doing? And Eddie had passed away a few months before, and I said, well, people keep calling me wanting Eddie's music. And so I'm spending my time working on getting the music to them. And so she paused a moment, and then you said to me, why don't you do an Eddie Kamae songbook? And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. That shouldn't be too hard. And so she helped put the crew together. I mean, Lilinoy, Andrews, Kapena Shim, and my assistant Manette, Madeline. I'd like to have Manette be my assistant. That would be really great. Madeline Shaw. And we had a meeting and we started to do this project.
So what would you say was your multiple roles? What hats were you wearing during the process of this 2.5 years of creating the songbook?
Well, one of the main things was that I determined from early on that every song needed audio and video to go with the music, to have it come alive, and to also be easier for musicians and for students to be able to play the music. We also had to have, chords, music scores, and even what I call the easy scores, which were the anti-Myrna ones.
The anti-Myrna version, that's right.
My role was a lot of times choosing the music that we'd be doing, and then we'd have our discussions, and I would be able to have the input from Kapena on the archival part, where, the deep side of where things were, and how to find them, and, the provenance, if that's the right word. Yeah. And then with Lily Noy, it was incredible to have her expertise in the language and the writing. So we really had a strong team, and I thought it would be pretty fast. But 2.5 years later, after Zooming every Saturday morning for several hours and working all week, but we're hoping that this will be a prototype for others, because there's so much beautiful music out there that needs to be sung, needs to be put in forms, and so that people can understand it better, and the stories will be there, and the history. And
so you had mentioned Lily Noy in terms of Lily Noy, your expertise in research and Olala Hawaii. Can you both of you talk a little bit more about going down that? I often would have to pull you guys out of the rabbit hole, but talk a little bit about what that experience was, working to get the research on the different mele that was included.
Those were lovely rabbit holes that we never wanted to come out of, but how we did it was Myrna and Kapena would talk about a particular song, and then Kapena would pull from the Kamae archives the pieces that he and Myrna thought were really important to dig into. Audio clips, video clips, newspapers, coverage in the newspaper, liner notes from albums, which were fantastic, and all of those things I would get emailed to me. I would go through them and then try to get a fast, deep read on this particular song, and then that would bring up lots of questions that we would have that we could ask Myrna about. Because in addition to being master and commander of this project, she was also the historian who has everything in her head, and if not in her head, it's on cocktail napkins or pieces of paper or photographs. And so we could bring up questions and then get an even richer idea of what we were looking at for a particular story, yeah?
So we've been talking a lot about Kapena in the third person, so we're gonna let Kapena introduce themselves, but I just wanna clarify something, right, Kapena? Is that I wasn't alone when I made that promise to Eddie Kamae. Guess who was sitting right next to me? And I said, we, not me, but we promised you that we could do this. So, Kapena has been my co-conspirator through the entire process. So introduce yourself, Kapena.
So I'm Kapena Shim, and I was the project director for the songbook and also the archivist for the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation. I've been the archivist for over 10 years already.
10 years already, Myrna.
yeah.
And my role in the songbook was to not only help connect the archival materials in the archive, so the audio video materials, the paper materials, the note cards, the documentaries, Eddie's book, all of that information, connecting that with the songs that Myrna wanted to feature in the songbook. And then also helping to direct the songbook project, so making sure that everybody's sort of on task to meet what we needed to meet every Saturday morning.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about how you became the archivist, what your relationship was with Eddie and with Myrna, how that all came to be? Because the story goes is that Eddie would not allow Myrna into the archive, right? And somehow or another, this little fella got himself into the archive, right? So talk a little bit about that.
Well, it was a Saturday morning. I'm sitting on my couch and I get a text from you, and it says, do you want to work with Eddie Kamae in his archive? I'm like, oh, I need a job. I just graduated, so sure. And she's like, come to my house, come get all the documentaries in the book, and just dive into it. And I spent that weekend diving into all the documentaries, watching every single documentary, reading the book front to back, and fell in love with that particular book. But I was really struck at the end of my documentary watching with the last film, Those Who Came Before, because the dojo was featured in that film. And as a child, I grew up in the dojo for a little bit. So to me, to see the dojo on screen in my living room, it was just sort of memorizing for me. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And then as I was reading Eddie's book, there's a section about my grandpa. Eddie wrote about my grandpa and how much he had so much aloha for Feet Rogers. So to me, it felt home. It felt like I was sort of connected into this work. And then to learn that Auntie Pilahi Paki was one of his teachers, who's also my auntie on my dad's side. So I felt like a coming home in some ways. So I was interested definitely after that. So then I met with you and Madeline and the board, and then I met Eddie, and I felt just a connection with him. He was a little bit older, but he'd always tell me these stories about my grandpa and how my grandpa helped get Feet out of trouble and things like that. And but yeah, I felt comfortable and he felt comfortable with me, and I think that's sort of how it got started.
From the beginning, Eddie totally trusted Kapena. He felt a deep connection, a deep heartfelt connection. And of course, being close friends with his grandfather helped, but it was a heart connection with Eddie and Kapena. And we are so grateful, because what he's done for us in these years is just an enormous contribution to the work, and continues to this day.
So talk a little bit about the archive, because we know that there was everything in that archive. How did you approach it? And then how did both of you kind of take that archive and use it as a way of helping you to select the different mele that you would present in the songbook? Because I know you both spend a lot of time organizing the archive and just cataloging everything. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the archive is mostly audiovisual material. So we have about 1,500 hours of raw footage, and that's all been cataloged at Ulu Ulu. The team over there has done a tremendous job making that all available, making all the raw footage available. So that's a big bulk of the archive. We also have a lot of paper documents, so photographs, paper documents, a lot of handwritten notes by Eddie. So as we were thinking about the songbook and the songs, one of the things that we really wanted to do was to make sure that the songs are a window into Eddie's life. And each one sort of represents a particular aspect of sort of what he's learning about as a young musician, as a seasoned musician, as an older musician. Who are the influences in his life, the teachers that sort of anchor his work, and what are some special moments as well within his life. And we wanted to connect all of those songs with the raw footage that was in the archive, bringing that raw footage back to light, because a lot of it's just in the archive and you can't really see it unless it's sort of brought back. So we really wanted to connect that. And then also all the handwritten documents and whatnot. If we were able to find a really relevant handwritten document, we wanted to bring that to life too, because it shows Eddie's handwriting, Eddie's thoughts about music. It shows his teachers and their handwriting and their translations. So it's really, really special documents to resurface.
And when it came to doing the website, we did have a web designer, but it ended up that they did the technical things, that entire design of the website is Kapena. And I don't know how you learned how to do all that, and then we had a little key there about when I try to navigate it, because I'm not really good at doing that. I told Kapena it has to be anti-Myrna. You have to make it anti-Myrna accessible, and he did. A lot of people have said it's a really easy, straightforward, and attractive website that you created.
Well, it was all her, because she's like, I don't know where this is. You can make it simple. So she was really the driver of the design to make it as simple as possible and easy to navigate. And if she can navigate it, anybody can navigate it.
Well, you didn't have to say that. It's true, though.
So let's talk a little bit about the making of the songbook and the experiences that you three had individually and collectively in the creation of the book, of the, I would say, sort of the digital interactive songbook. So I'd like you to take a moment here and to think about 3 seminal moments over the last 2.5 years, just 3, that for you was a real turning point in what the final product ended up to be, right? So just 3 moments for yourself.
Well, I have a really kind of silly one. It's silly, and you guys will probably cut it, but it came from the very first meeting, and it's very different.
Very first meeting of the 3 of you together?
Yes, and also Manette, I keep saying Manette, but it also was with Madeline, my assistant, and a very important person in all of our lives for the last 30 years. And so we're having this meeting in our office, and so I don't know how you started doing this, but you started talking about each one of us and our roles, and how each one of our roles had to do with the kind of car we would drive. And do you remember that?
Yes.
And it really was interesting, because I think it was a good characterization.
With that metaphor, what was the cars?
Well, it's the format method that Bernice McCarthy developed for curriculum development as well as teaching and learning, 4 different learning styles. And I think if you go to a car dealership, you come out with a certain kind of car that signifies your learning and teaching style. And I think Madeline would have been the minivan, because she wants to bring everybody with her, and it's the why and the feeling of it. Kapena is the Volvo, because studies show, the facts show, the research shows, the data shows that it's the safest car. Pickup truck, because I just tell me what to do. I gotta get it done. I got a pickup truck. I'll get the stuff. I'll get it done. And Myrna is the red Ferrari, because she could see herself screaming down the highway. What's to come? What can we do with this? Where can we take it? And so we got all 4. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and in the end, is that exactly what played out in your work?
I'm still waiting for my Ferrari.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. You need all 4 of those elements in order to really, to really abundantly bring together your skill set to work forward. Did you have any collisions along the way?
Are you saying, did we have
Challenges?
active conversations?
Active
We had
conversations.
active conversations, whether it was about different styles of dashes, M dashes or N dashes, or double hyphens or double M dashes. We went over that for hours. To sometimes when we had conflicting sources on a particular story. And so the way we would resolve it, and we had heated discussions about a few things, would be Myrna would guide us in saying, we gotta go with Eddie's story, because that's the story we're telling. And it's Myrna's songbook, really. So we pushed, we had some challenges we pushed through, but I tell you, for a small core group of 3 people, we're really, really blessed and probably very guided to have the right skill sets for such a small group to be able to even get past some of those difficult discussions that we had sometimes.
And one of the most exciting things to me was when we'd be going through the Hawaiian translations. And you have deep knowledge, Lilinoe has deep knowledge of the language. Kapena is very well schooled in it, and I'm opinionated.
So I'd like to say that some of those collisions might have happened because of those opinions, right?
But it was exciting. It was interesting to learn the depth of some of these things like winds and rains and just beautiful, beautiful things.
And those are in the notes of the different songs that are provided. You have all of that information, right, in the notes. What's another seminal moment? So Myrna had pointed out, you know, the first time you met and the auto. I'm going to be thinking about that throughout the process of our talking together. But what is another one, another seminal event?
I think for me, a seminal event, which is kind of throughout the whole project, was just the opportunity to get these stories down from Myrna. Myrna, like Lilinoe said, is a historian of this whole body of work. So just being able to have her sit with us and sort of recollect these stories and help us sort of think through these stories and then connecting these stories to what's written down and what's in the documentaries. I thought that was really a big moment.
Right, I do remember one story, Kapena, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about it, about a particular mele where you recounted, was it on Hawaii Island, Mokuo Keawe? It was the mele about the car.
Oh,
Kealakaji?
Yeah, that one. And I remember you presenting that to the board and how you would talk about how you're putting together different mele from your memories of the travel, the trip that you did, the people that you met. Can you talk a little bit about those kinds of experiences, since a seminal moment is listening to the stories of the sort of the making of or the collection of these original mele?
So what's interesting with that mele is Myrna was there and she remembers this bumpy road, but she remembers all these little details too, which I think really made the song story very interesting. And Lilinoe just loves details. So Myrna would say details and Lilinoe's like, okay, what about this? And what about that? What about that? And I'll be like, okay, come on, we need to move on. We have another song to go through. Yeah. And then to see the raw footage that sort of helps to bring light to that journey too, because there is these interviews of Eddie and Myrna there talking story, and then you have the performances from Eddie. So it's just neat to kind of have all these stories from you, the details that Lilinoe is gravitating towards, and then the archival footage that's really sort of giving more texture and spirit to
What particular story did she tell you that really, I think for you, Kapena, just illuminates this experience? Because first of all, when people are doing songbooks, they don't often have the opportunity to actually speak with Myrna Kamae, right? So you all had a very special experience. So what story did Myrna tell that just captures?
I think for that song, after you went Holo Holo, you went to Uncle Willie's house, right? And you guys had like soda crackers or something like that. And I remember that particular detail. And to me, that was really remarkable because it just shows just how much of a long day that was, and just how you spent the whole day journeying, and then you go there at the end to sort of decompress and talk story around a table.
With Kavena Pukui, Ellie Williamson, Uncle Willie Meineke in his home, and it was a bowl of hot milk and crackers, and they had bananas that were hooked that we had pulled down, and so that was our dinner. And then that's when we started talking about the song and talking about wanting. And Kavena Pukui was the one that wanted us to write a song about the story of our day, and there it began.
And that's in the songbook.
That's in the songbook. Yeah.
The great thing about it was that's where she grew up. That's where all those places that we went to, we would stop and she would tell us about what was there before. And then she even took us down to the cave where her and her grandmother would go there in the summers, and they would sleep there. And so it just brought back so many memories. And she'd come to a place and she'd start chanting. And it was really an extraordinary day.
How much of that do you have on tape? How much of that is in the songbook? And how much of that is in the Ulu'ulu archive?
So that whole journey is not on tape, but the story's in the songbook. And then, that's right. Yeah, there's photographs. And actually on the songbook homepage, there is a photograph of them, Mary Kavina Pukui, Eddie and Myrna, and then Elle Williamson. And I think Uncle Willie might be in that photograph too, yeah.
Yeah, Eddie always wished he'd have had a tape with him that day, because he usually did have one. But Kavena had worked with Eddie for many years, and she wanted him to experience the spirit of that land and to really get a feel for where she grew up and how important that land is to remember, and to remember those places, and to have them remembered now through a song.
Now that brings me to the organization of the songbook, right? So you ended up doing it somewhat thematically, or you went through stages of how you were putting it together and making the selection. I say that only because I do remember there was like sacred spaces. There was, a theme around Aina. So talk a little bit more about your thought process of how you organized it, how you selected the themes and the songs.
That would be mostly.
Yeah. So we definitely wanted the songs to represent Eddie and his journey, because his journey is really fascinating. He is this young Hawaiian man who grew up wanting to play anything but Hawaiian music, but then he ended up really learning and falling in love with Hawaiian music, and that sort of sparked this whole journey. And in this journey, he wanted to learn more about Hawaiian music, like what does it mean? How do I pronounce these Hawaiian songs? So he sought teachers that can help him really understand the meaning of these songs, but also how to sing these songs. And that journey itself is just remarkable. And the songbook really represents those key moments that he's taking away as a young musician growing up playing Hawaiian music. And in this journey, there are some key teachers that he had. So Mary Kavena Pukui, Pilahi Paki, and Samlia Kalairaina, who really helped develop his understanding of Hawaiian music, how to sing Hawaiian music, but then also how to really see Hawaiian music in whole different ways, like how Hawaiian music and songs help understand place, help understand oneself as a Hawaiian, as even like a man or just a person living in Aina. So the songbook was grouped in those particular categories, where he had his three teachers really being a core for each sort of theme. And then another key teacher of his was Queen Lilio Kulani. He really loved her music, so we wanted to make sure that some of her songs are in the songbook. And then there's some other songs too pertaining to the documentaries. So we had like Listen to the Forest, which is their second documentary about rainforest preservation, Aloha Aina. And there's 3 songs in that documentary. So we wanted to make sure that those songs are in the songbook. And then we also wanted to honor some of Eddie's other teachers too, like Mama Hale. So we have Pua Lilia in that songbook, because there's this great interview by Mama Hale talking about the poetic aspect of the lyrics. And we also wanted to honor Iolani Luahine, which is a friend of theirs, with the song No Ke Ana Ahiahi. Yeah. And then of course we wanted to honor E Ku'u Morning Dew as well, which is Eddie and Myrna's and Larry Kimura. So.
Do you have a Lilinoi seminal moment?
I have 2. The quick one is the first song that I was given was Sweet
Haha Ayakamanu.
Sweet Haha Eya Kamanu. And I didn't know the song. I read the lyrics. I went, oh wow, these are beautiful. And I went through all the stuff, and I thought, and it was tough. It was tough to come up with the voice to write the song story. And I did a lot of research. I even pulled maps to try and figure out exactly where these place names were, because a lot of the place names in these songs are not on maps anymore, which was amazing. And so I remember thinking, wow, this is hard. So I thought they gave me the hardest one to start. And then the next song was really hard too. And then the one after that was really hard. And they were all hard. And there was maybe one or two that were like, oh, okay, this is not so bad. But the real profound experience was working on the mele that has already been discussed, which is Keala Akajip. Because consider this, you have Mary Kavena Pukui, who is our foremost Hawaiian scholar. Doesn't matter what century or which decades. She takes Eddie and Myrna to her place where her grandmother brought her Hawaiian-speaking grandmother, speaks to her in Hawaiian, way out in the country in Ka'u, and shows them this place name, that place name, that place name, all the stories behind it. These places aren't even on the maps anymore, and they get to learn that. All of that is embedded in this song that Myrna and Kavena Pukui wrote. On the original document that we get to work with, there's both of their handwritings on there. That, if you think about what is preserved in that song and then layered into the words, it is astonishing. And that is a richness that you're lucky if you ever get to discover and then get to be with and work with in Hawaiian language or Hawaiian culture. That was incredible, that song. And that's like everybody's, one of their favorite, Eddie Kamae and the Sons of Hawaii song is Keala Akajip, the one that's kind of upbeat and goes kind of fast as it's played now. But what's under it is astonishing, I think. Yeah.
Well, that it does speak to the art form that is Hawaiian music.
Yes, it's quintessential.
And the language and the kauna in which that language grows out of.
Yep. Yeah, and how much can be said in so few words, but the detail in there is it expands out of one word or one phrase. And that's a remarkable thing about Hawaiian.
Well, Lilinoe, this sounds like it was not only a scholarly challenge, but it was also a growth opportunity for yourself. And I could tell that you were very moved to learn these things. Yeah. How do you feel about that, Myrna, that the work that you and Eddie have done moves so many people?
Well, I'm very grateful to have people in our lives that understand the depth of the work and are able to help bring it forward. And when we're looking at some of the songs that are in this songbook, I think about how there's these different versions and how, what a deep dive that Lilinoe, Kapena, and this, had to do to look and compare these versions. And it was really a scholarly, very, very well done scholarly work that was, I think, going to be a lesson for people in the future to see these different versions and to be able to understand the depth of this understanding.
One of our favorite composers is Sam Lia for many people, and you had the opportunity to work with Eddie on the Sam Lia documentary, plus learning the music and whatnot. I'm thinking about the both of you in the archive pulling all that information and then trying to make the decision of what do you include in the songbook. So not necessarily what did you include, because we can take a look at that, but what didn't you include? And how difficult was that for you?
Well, we chose a lot of our favorites. So there's not a lot of regrets in that, but there surely are songs that we'd still like to have sung. There are songs that we'd like to have added in. But for what we have done, I think the body of work that we're bringing forward is a good representative of Eddie Kamae and his music and his teacher's music. So I think as a first step, we have accomplished what we'd like to do. But then...
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, I think Myrna would always say, can I do one more song? Can I do one more song? 36. We can do 36. But we ended up with 34.
We started off with like 24.
Then it went up a bit, yeah.
A couple dozen, I said, couple dozen.
I go, okay, I think we can do 25.
36.
But in terms of the archival materials in each of the pu'olo for each song, I think Myrna's spot on in that what we had is what we shared. And it's really interesting too because towards the last days before going live, I go to the archive and there's a box that Madeline left for me to go through. And she's like, oh, Kapena, go through this box, there's some stuff in there. I'm like, okay. So I go through it and I start opening up this binder and I see all these originals of Sam Li'a and his handwriting of these particular songs that are in the songbook. And prior to that, all I had was photocopies. So that was like, to me, a big ho'ailona that, oh, this isn't meant to be because now we can incorporate these originals that have the color, showing the color of the pen into the songbook. So that was a big thing, really, to be able to have access to those original documents and swap out the photocopies with these originals.
I think of Sam Li'a and his character, and what a kind gentleman, and how Eddie always said he was a man of aloha, and it was truly the best way to characterize him. Very special man, very caring, an incredible composer, great musician, and loves people, loves children, and I feel that this songbook is certainly making Eddie Kamae happy, but I'm sure the other people like Sam Li'a, Kalainaina, will be very happy to know their music is living on, and living on in such a special way.
Can I ask, was there, to help people who are thinking about doing this work, it would be good to know what some of the challenges were and how you address them. Challenges of selection, what do you show, what version do you do? And, if you can talk about a couple of really difficult challenges and how you managed through that, that might be helpful as well.
Well, I think one challenge we faced early on was audience, and the tone of the writing. And Lilinoy was really great at sort of helping us think through that, because we didn't want it to be written like an academic, because that's going to disconnect a lot of people. So we wanted it to be accessible, and with Eddie and Myrna, they've always wanted to do things for the children, because that's a lesson that Eddie's teachers always instilled with him, is do it for the children so it can live on. So we wanted to make sure that these song stories were accessible to a wide range of students. And that's sort of where the tone came from. But that was a big challenge of figuring out how best to sort of get that tone right.
How did you do that? How did you test it out? What were you thinking?
We wanted to make the narrative really accessible. I was inspired by the book on Eddie Kamae, his biography, written by Jim Houston. I loved his tone, and it really inspired me to punch up. But yet, I wanted it to be accessible to teachers, families, and students down to a certain age, not too young. So when we got to places where I thought this really needs to have rigor, a lot of times we would take the rigor and put it in footnotes. Put it in endnotes, footnotes, and try and keep it both scholarly but accessible at the same time. And we tried out, you know, some styles of writing. We really, as a group, shaped it at the beginning until we got, oh, I like that. And then it was easier after that. Yeah, you're right, that finding the voice was a challenge.
And I think also what helped in the process too was really bringing in Eddie's voice. So we're fortunate because Eddie was on camera a lot. He would be sharing a lot of things. He's also recalling a lot in his book. And we made sure to sort of bring those thoughts as well, so that Eddie was very much in the songbook and telling these stories along with Myrna.
And Kapena could always find where it was too. He knows that book so well. I think he's memorized it. Yeah, because he could always pick up, oh, that's on this page, and so that it was very valuable for us to have that book as a resource. Yeah.
Did you have anyone else read what you were doing or review what you were doing?
We did at the end. We didn't do it during the writing of all of that and the development and the pulling the archival pieces, but once we had it done, and I don't know if we were already online or right before we sent it out to about 12 carefully selected reviewers, people who are experts in Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian language, people in music, people in curriculum development, and teachers in Hawaiian immersion and also not Hawaiian immersion. And we gave each person like 3 or 4 songs and asked them specific questions, and the feedback we got was so valuable. And I have to say it was overwhelmingly positive, which I didn't expect. I thought people would catch a few things. That was the idea. We wanted it to have a lot of rigor and a lot of accuracy. And we got wonderful feedback, so that was helpful.
Were there any comments that helped you to kind of step it up a bit or fine-tune it? Can you remember any one that...
A lot of people were really pleased to see these songs that targeted specific places. And so they would say, hey, you know what would be great to add into your resources is a map of Waipio Valley, a map of where they went on Kauai for Sweet Haha Ayakamanu to you know, where they went in that story. We'd like to see those maps. And they talked to us about people who should know about this songbook, where we should go to take it. So really the ideas that came from them would help us use the songbook or develop curriculum to support it.
And I thought Aaron Salah was helpful to us, both the stature of his ability with music and his understanding of the ethnomusicology was very key. And I know that you had brought him into this project specifically to help us with that side and to help get the ethnomusicologists and the people that would be doing the arranging. And that was incredibly valuable for that time.
And in another one of these installations, we're actually going to be talking with the musicians, the music folks, and getting their perspective of their working with you on this. So any lessons learned from, because this was the first time, well, you have done Lina Machado, but this was an entirely different experience than the Lina Machado book. This was much more of a, not only presenting the music, but it's the whole comprehensive knowledge base around each of the different mele. So any lessons learned that for music educators, for composers and arrangers, for people putting together curriculum, any lessons learned that you would pass along?
Well, I don't know about lessons learned, but I know that we're really looking forward to coming up with some dynamic educational material that will be using the songbook, taking these songs into the schools, making them come alive through the education projects. And so that's a really exciting idea for us. Do you have anything else that you're thinking?
Well, I mean, one lesson learned would be perhaps to pilot the pu'olo for a song with our target audience. So we didn't get a chance to do that in our time.
We'll talk about the pu'olu first. We haven't had a chance to really talk about each one of these.
So the pu'olo, so each song is a pu'olo, and the pu'olo will have a PDF that has a song story, the lyrics and translation, a bibliography, educational questions, and then photocopies of the print and photographic materials that we want to feature for that particular song. And then in the pu'olo on the website, you also have clips to the song, where you can actually listen to the whole song, and you can follow along with the scores. And then there's also videos too, either a video clip from the documentary that featured that song, or maybe an interview with Eddie or somebody else talking about that song, or elements that are related to that particular song. And then there's even stock footage. So say a song talks about a bird, we'll have stock footage of a bird so people can kind of see and whatnot. So because we really wanted to make this for educators and for students, I think what we could have done is maybe pilot a couple before we sort of finished doing the whole songbook, but maybe like after 5, we sort of maybe pilot one and just sort of use that as a temperature check. But that would have sort of delayed the timeline as well. So I think for us, given sort of the timeline that we had and what we wanted to do and what we wanted to accomplish, we did what we had to do. But if we had more timeline, more time frame, then we could probably pilot something.
So 2020 vision, right? If you take a look at the pu'olu now, what are some things that you would want to go back, or you still have time to go back and add, because it is a digital format, you can add, you can revise and whatnot. What are some things you would add?
A wonderful suggestion came from people we've been talking to, educators we've been talking to, post the reviewers' feedback. And what one person said is, you know what would really help our teachers interact with the songbook is if you put a spreadsheet, a guide, up on the website that had the song name, the subject matter, composers, the DOE, perhaps standards, the HA standards, the topics that are covered, and what area is this science-y? Is it mathematics-y? Is it, is it really focusing on Hawaiian language? What is the place that's covered? And if the people could scan through that, then they'd be able to pick what they think would be appropriate for their classroom. And I thought that was a really good idea, and I'm in the process of setting that up.
Putting that together. Other things that you might want to add besides this great reference point for educators?
More songs. More songs, perhaps.
I don't want to end up with a dilemma, but I'm going to end with a dilemma. The big dilemma for Lilinois was the fact that it is in a print. And the reason we didn't put it in a print is because we want the audio and video to always be a part of it. And though a lot of people would like a print, we've made it easy enough, it's free, and hopefully the Eddie Kamae Songbook will always be free to have people have access to it. So even though it is in a print version, it's easily accessible. And you can live with that, right?
I know that was a constant conversation, print and digital, print and digital. Well, the other thing about the digital is that it's accessible to anyone in this world as well. So, and that's sort of the vision of doing the songbook, right? I think of many other indigenous communities around the world that have music, and everybody does. They need to start taking a look at their music, because in the music holds, their ancestral stories. It holds the blood memory of all of their people. So what you folks have done has been an enormous gift to the people of Hawaii and for all those who love Hawaii and Hawaii's music. So final question, fast round. As you know, this is primarily for students and for educators, and of course a lot of interested community members as well. But if you would share a couple words of wisdom for folks that are interested in either doing a songbook similar to this or using some of the music that you've presented in the songbook, what words of wisdom would you share with them? You can go last, Myrna.
Thank you.
Well, for me, I'm thinking words of advice would be to think about sort of what lessons you want to share and really use that as your guiding torch to help you figure out what songs to feature and how to feature those particular songs and what to sort of bring along as you're featuring those particular songs. Because that was a key thing for us is the lessons that we wanted to share from Eddie's life that can help all of Hawaii connect not only with Hawaiian music but also just a journey of one's life, like growing up and learning about particular things that you're passionate about and diving into it and keep learning more about it. So really, yeah, so the word of advice is think about the lessons you want to share for the next generation and work on particular songs that sort of help to bring that forward.
I think other people who are thinking, oh, we should do a songbook, do it. Do it now. If your family has a whole bunch of songs and stuff, get together and get the stories on tape, write them down, just start doing it. And when you're done, you can make a simple website and you can get it up there for perpetuity, to save it before it's lost. I think it's so important to not worry about how to do it. We don't have money or what. It doesn't take money. It takes getting someone you like who doesn't bug you too much, pull them into the project and just do it. Save it.
Mahalo, Illinois.
There's a lot of beautiful music out there to be saved, and I think families really need to get together, as you have said, and to work on a project that tells a story. It tells the story not only of the songs, it tells the story of their families and a time. And it also gives them a unity in understanding the music of their family or the music their family loved growing up. And now we're going to have an added dimension in that the Eddie Kamae Songbook is going to be translated into Hawaiian, to have it in Hawaiian language so that all of the native speakers, all of the people that are learning Hawaiian have this resource. And one of the best ways, I think, to learn Hawaiian music is to learn it through singing. And so I think we're really fortunate to be able to have come this far. And Manette, I know you don't like to have a lot of focus on you, but we would never have been able to have this vision or to have been able to accomplish this project without your leadership, without you guiding us, without you giving us the way to make it happen. We're really grateful, and we thank you for doing this for us.
Well, mahalo for that, Myrna. What you and Eddie have gifted to the rest of us is priceless, as you know. And it was a vision of yours and Eddie that Kapena and I promised that we would fulfill. So mahalo to you for giving us the gift and the opportunity, just the opportunity to learn with you, to learn from you, and provide this opportunity for so many more generations to come of educators and lovers of Hawaiian music to learn from as well. Mahalo to you, Kapena, for taking the call that early Saturday morning and saying, yes, I'll come and I'll learn. And I do want to add, Myrna, that he was very excited, as we know. Yeah, he was very excited to be a part of this and has really grown up with this program. So thank you again, Kapena and Lilinoy. Thank you for your expertise and your scholarship and your patience and letting Myrna and I beat up on you, you know. It was the best as you put this all together. And for your continued work above and beyond the Olelo Hawaii translation, you know, the teaching pieces of it, all stuff that you have been doing. So mahalo for that as well. So this is the end of our time together with the Hui Hana Nui group, the people who did the real heavy lifting of this. The other interviews that we will be doing will be about different parts of the work as well, and I know the both of you will be a part of that conversation as well. So mahalo.